All right, JD Vance, our vice president, is getting in kind of unhinged Twitter fights with some of the top journalists. And it's like, it's fine if JD Vance wants to use social media. I don't care. Even if he wants to debate a little bit, I encourage that. But calling journalists dummies and arguing in bad faith on Twitter and then having Elon Musk boost you and get your back, it's all just incredibly corny and propagandistic, and I want to break it down top to bottom. So make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe so we can hit 1 million, continue boosting this pro-democracy message. And let's just start from the beginning. Elon Musk has been tweeting out 100, 200 times a day. I'm not even joking. Elon Musk is addicted to tweeting. And he said a few days ago, within 20 minutes, he tweeted out two separate things. First, he said, one of the first things Hitler did upon gaining power was applying aggressive censorship. Then 20 minutes later, he tweeted out, 60 Minutes are the biggest liars in the world. They engaged in deliberate deception to interfere with the last election. They deserve a long prison sentence. And Elon Musk has been talking about prison sentences a lot lately. He's been referring people to certain prosecutors trying to get people jailed. Elon Musk is doing the exact type of aggressive censorship that he referred to in this first tweet, and he tweets these things 20 minutes apart. Either he doesn't see the irony there, or he's purposefully doing it to flood the zone and to confuse his enemies, but we can sit here and calmly break down what he's doing. He's calling to censor 60 Minutes, an organization with a lot of credibility, a news organization. He also is called to censor other stations, and Donald Trump has sued almost every news station there is at this point. So it's just Elon Musk is the one who's clearly calling for censorship. Okay, then, right around the time that was happening, JD Vance gave a speech at the Munich Security Conference, and while he was there, it was really odd. He slammed European commissars and accused them all of suppressing free speech while he was there. Like, while he was giving this speech, he began to accuse the people in the room of suppressing free speech, and nobody ended up clapping for him because they were all like, dude, what the hell? And while all of this was happening, the Trump administration was actively banning the Associated Press from the White House because they refused to name the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America in their articles. This will all tie back in when I get there. But JD Vance gave this very, very odd speech. And it was also really inappropriate because JD Vance came there and everyone was expecting him to talk about Ukraine and security guarantees and peace in Europe because Europe is actively being invaded. And instead, JD Vance kind of took the stage and just began to bash our European allies, which is all this administration does. And I've read multiple articles now fact-checking things that he said. Apparently, he used very misleading examples to say that European leaders were eroding free speech. That's what he said. Abandoning their core values, and that there was a threat from within. And then his speech was just kind of met with silence. And then the vice president of the European Commission then criticized it in the next speech. He then gave a speech and criticized what JD Vance said. So now you have all of the context. So now let's move on to our vice president getting in very belligerent beefs on Twitter. Mark Caputo tweeted out, President Trump's decision to limit AP reporters' access is as much of a fight over the Gulf of America as it is a protest of what White House advisors say is years of liberal word choices that AP's influential style book spread across mainstream media. And remember, AP News is actually doing a pretty good job here. They are not capitulating at all. They are not bending the knee. They are holding firm and saying, we don't really care what the consequences are. We're going to keep calling it the Gulf of Mexico because that is what it's called. I've always thought the AP did rather good reporting. The Associated Press does good on-the-ground reporting and does good editorial reporting. So, remember, Elon Musk said this, and here's where the fight begins. Mehdi Hasan, who is a really solid, seasoned journalist, tagged JD Vance and said, hey, JD Vance, I know you're busy lecturing the Europeans on free speech, but have you seen this? And he tags JD Vance in this AP News thing. That's why I talked about JD Vance at the Munich conference, because Mehdi Hasan references it. And JD Vance responds, yes, dummy. I think there's a difference between not giving a reporter a seat in the White House press briefing room and jailing people for dissenting views. The latter is a threat to free speech. The former is not. Hope that helps. But JD Vance has such a black and white, simplistic view of what can be a threat to free speech. Jojo from Jura says, the so-called vice president called a highly respected journalist a dummy on social media. What's wrong? Someone said there's obviously a massive difference of degree, but surely punishing a news organization for not going along with a government diktat is an encroachment on free speech. And I think this really gets to the core point. Punishing a news organization is an encroachment on free speech, and suppressing free speech is a spectrum. It's not black or white like JD Vance makes it out to be when he says the latter is a threat to free speech, the former is not. It is not that simple. You can encroach on free speech or at least create a chilling effect, and that is what the White House is doing right there. When Donald Trump relentlessly sues different news organizations, like he sued ABC, he sued MSNBC, Reuters, he sued 60 Minutes, he sued all of these different shows and organizations, and now it creates this incentive structure where people are scared to criticize the government. And when you deny a seat to the press, like they're doing with AP News, you're using government access as leverage. So there's a punishment mechanism for any sort of dissent. AP News wants to dissent slightly and you just ban them entirely. It creates an environment where basically independent journalism is penalized and state-aligned media is favored or given more and more access. And it's a playbook that's been used in a lot of authoritarian democracies. So Mehdi Hasan also points out the hypocrisy. He then responds to JD Vance even further, and he says, "Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for taking time out of your busy schedule to call me names." Like, dude, why is he calling journalists dummies? They're also immature. But your boss, Elon Musk, just called for a, quote, long prison sentence for CBS journalists for edits he didn't like. Did you not get the memo? Do you agree with Mr. Musk on locking up US TV journos? And here's the OG tweet from Elon Musk. He said, 60 Minutes are the biggest liars in the world. They engaged in deliberate deception to interfere with the last election. They deserve a long prison sentence. 60 Minutes cut out about 30 seconds of an interview and compressed it with Kamala Harris. It's like, it's so normal to do. Fox News does it with Donald Trump. CNN does it with everybody. You compress interviews to make it more palatable and more watchable. But Donald Trump uses that to sue 60 Minutes. And again, create that chilling effect. Create the chilling effect where you signal that criticizing the government comes with consequences when that shouldn't be the case. We see that with AP's White House ban as well, denying people privilege that they shouldn't be denied. And then Mehdi Hasan challenges JD Vance. And I think that if JD Vance is truly the free speech warrior he claims to be, he should take this debate to a one-on-one with Mehdi Hasan. He says, open invite to the vice president to come on my show and do an interview with me about the state of free speech in the US and in Europe. He won't accept, of course, as he has a safe space on Fox, but I'm making the offer anyways in the name of free speech and free debate. And you know, this might be a little bit controversial, but I think that JD Vance should be allowed to debate a little bit on Twitter. He shouldn't be tweeting relentlessly like Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is the one who's going unhinged and talking about prison. But if JD Vance wants to get on Twitter and be like, hey, I want to say this, say that, then it's like, go for it. Healthy debate is good for freedom of speech. When AOC takes questions on Instagram, she'll go through and answer like 30 questions in a row on a live stream or on her stories. That's good. You can use it for communication, but don't be calling people dummies randomly. It's very odd to be calling people dummies and then arguing in bad faith when Elon Musk, someone you guys parade around, keeps saying that 60 Minutes deserves a prison sentence. This deserves a prison sentence. Rena Shah said, the Vice President of the United States of America, a supposedly highly educated father of young children, should be above name-calling with words like dummy in response to a tweet he doesn't like. Yet here we are. How very juvenile. I mean, if you're going to try to do a 1-2 punch, like a punchy tweet, at least have something less juvenile than the word dummy. Unironically, why use the word dummy? Elon Musk changes his name to Harry Balls. JD Vance uses the word dummy. It's like these are children. These are actually children. He calls Mehdi a dummy and then proves he has no effing clue what he's talking about. Both are encroachments on free speech. All this did was demonstrate that in addition to being a fascist, you're an effing asshole. While denying a reporter a seat at the White House briefing might seem less severe in comparison to jailing individuals, it can still have consequences on the freedom of speech and transparency in government. Access to information is vital in a democratic society, and limiting press could undermine the ability of journalists to hold the government accountable. It's also a slippery slope. Like I said, there's a chilling effect where restrictions on press freedoms, even in small forms, can lead to a larger, more harmful limitation on freedom of speech as a whole. And I'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Love all of you. Peace out.